We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center on this 21st day of the month of November 2024. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program. We are honored to have with us artist and administrator, the Cultural Arts Center, Todd Camp, whose call to both administration and art is all the more reason why he's such a great leader among us. Through his art of administration as well as his abstract art. When we heard that originally scheduled artist was ill with COVID and could not be here, he stepped up, and Todd, we are so grateful. Thank you. You started an applause? Yeah. When Todd was asked how he got involved in art, in his very beginnings, he shared this story. When I was 7 years old, art chose me. I decided to make a backdrop for a play that I was putting on. Imagine that at 7 years old. I went to our linen closet and picked out the perfect sheet. Next, I took out a set of markers and began to draw the scenery for the play. I felt my mother's presence behind me and realized I was probably about to be in a world of trouble. I held my breath as my mother proceeded to say, "This is beautiful." From that moment, I knew art had chosen me. Todd was faithful to his bonding to this very day with us. He went to the college, Columbus College of Art and Design, and graduated with honors. And after graduation, he began teaching art with the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department in community centers for 10 years. And at that time, he took a position as the Cultural Arts Director with the YMCA of Central Ohio, where he started the YMCA's first art programming. After 5 years in that position, he left to open Todd Camp Studios and began producing his own art in the form of paintings, clay, sculptures for galleries around the country, as well as for corporate commissions. After this time of 3 years, Todd decided to head back to the work-a-day world by accepting a position as the education director for the Martin Luther King Jr. Cultural Arts and Performing Arts Complex. Years following, Todd accepted the position of Assistant Arts Administrator at the Cultural Arts Center. He had come full circle with Columbus Recreation and Parks and is with us today, yay, into his 11th year. In describing his paintings, Todd shares that process and alchemy of image has been the primary focus of his life's work. The pursuit of meaning through the painted surface and solicitation of emotion that comes from unpredictable subject matter has excited him for over 35 years. He seeks non-traditional materials, non-conventional methods of mark making, and color combinations, which when joined communicate energy and mystique in his abstract work. Todd reflects that art challenges the mind and elevates the soul. Beautiful. He asks the viewer, "Show me something I have not seen before." This motto guides my desire to live and create. I crave to go beyond the obvious, not to stop short and push through the layers until the desired outcome is achieved. Perseverance and relentless pursuit of growth was instilled in me as a child, but later refined in art school, where it became more intense. These important influences are essential to the success of my paintings. A suitcase of aesthetics I carry has developed over time and includes simple observations from the world around me, both natural and man-made. Some examples include an erratic streak from an airplane's path across a blue clouded sky, hues of rust on a bridge overpass, reflections of light at 4 p.m., and the deep tones of shadow at dawn, and marks made by a snowplow in winter on black pavement. Nostalgia, wandering through antique stores, and dreamy ocean waters all inform the aesthetic part of Todd and show up as abstracted elements in his work. For the last year, Todd has introduced collage into his paintings, specifically hectograph printing, and has added another level of complexity and visual interest to the surface. Monoprints are pulled from a gelatin plate and cut up and arranged as part of compositional vocabulary. Todd shares he's found collage elements combined with vintage papers, receipts maps, and shopping bags that add excitement. Isn't that great? Shopping bags, excitement, history, pattern, and freshness to his contemporary abstracts. Todd, your vocation as an artist is truly exciting, mesmerizing. Thank you for being with us today as you share your amazing work.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Ellen, and a special thanks to the Channel 3 crew because I kind of threw them for a loop today in the way that this room is set up, and of course, they pulled through with flying colors, so big round of applause for Channel 3 for being here. And for you taking this hour out of your day, because I know at this very moment in time, there's a lot going on in the world. And for us to stop for a moment and just look and be with each other and make cool things is probably the most important part of the day that we can achieve. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for showing up. What I would like to do is I'm going to show some pieces of work that are as Ellen mentioned, the hecto prints, and these originated from gelatin. So printing was done on gelatin, so like Jello, jiggler kind of stuff. The issue with that, as it was found, is after about 2 weeks, the gelatin became moldy. So you had to dispose it, you had to make it again. So somebody came up brilliantly with a synthetic version, which is a silicone plate. And so on the tables up in the front here, we have these smaller versions of this plate. The one that I'm gonna be using today is this size, and I'm gonna demonstrate up here on the table how the very basic instructions, the very basic ways of creating something quickly and effectively can be done using acrylic paint, which is different from most printmaking processes, which uses ink. And so the good news about the acrylic paint is that it dries quickly, it is easy to clean up, but still will not come out of your clothes. So just keep that in mind if you were at the front tables up here. If you have long sleeves, you probably want to roll them up. And then that way you'll be safe from the paint that tends to just show up on your clothes and hands and fingers. All right. Has anybody ever experienced jelly printing before? Has anybody done it? A couple of you? Good. Yeah. It's really something I just kind of fell into and taught myself. And those are the kinds of experiences that I really go for because when you're entering into something that you don't know about, at least for me, it's really, really exciting. When you accomplish what you're trying to do, then for me, it becomes kind of boring. So then I move on to something else. So for me, the magic that happens with this printing process is pretty spectacular. So I am going to go back here to the table. You're going to be able to see up here on the screen exactly what I'm doing. And then those of you that are up here, we're going to have a hands-on experience and have some fun. You guys ready for this? All right. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have the gelatin plate, and the tools, again, the entry point into making this kind of art is pretty small. It's not very expensive to get started, and the materials that you purchase to do this last a long time. Here's an example of one of the prints, and hopefully you can see this. Sorry for the glare. And I'm going to pass some of these around so you can see them up close. But this is one that uses stencils, and I'll talk about stencils specifically here in a few minutes. But what we're going to do is start out with the most basic way of doing this printing. So on the tables that you'll see when you come up front here, and anybody else that wants to try this beyond the group that's here, we're going to rotate out. So if anybody else wants to come up and try this, you may. This tool is called a brayer. This is a printmaking tool. This is like a roller. It's a rubberized roller, and it distributes the ink or the paint, in our case, onto the gelatin plate. So what we're going to do is start out with a single color, and the way that this is going to work, there's a couple nuances to this. So number one, the amount of paint that you put onto the plate. So if you can watch up here on the screen, you'll see that I'm just using very small amount of paint. All right. So when we start out, it's not a gallon of paint on here. It's just a couple of dots. All right, now remember, this is relative to the size of my plate. Yours is about half that or a quarter of that size. So what I'm going to do is take the brayer now. I'm smoothing that out onto the plate so that there's a nice even coat of the paint on the plate. Now, if you end up with too much paint on your plate, the table has paper on it. So what you can do is just take your brayer and clean off the extra paint. That will do that. Now, you will see that on your table you have some Q-tips, and that's what we're going to use to make our marks with. The trick to this is doing the mark making before the paint dries. So this first go round that we're going to do is a pretty quick process. All right, so let me show you the next step. I'm going to take the Q-tip and I'm just going to make a quick design. All right, just quick design. Now I'm going to do a print of this while this is still wet. Very important that this happens before the paint dries. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer that image onto the paper. So I'm doing a quick rub, and I'm using the palm of my hand to do the pressing from the plate to the paper. The other method you could do is you could use your brayer. If you can't get your hand flat, just use your brayer. All right, so now, fingers crossed, drum roll, here we go. All right, so that quickly, you have a print. All right, single color, right? Now, question always is, okay, what can I do with this? All right, this could stand alone on its own. This could become a piece of collage paper if you're doing cut-ups, collage work. You could cut this up and use it for that, or you could print another color over top of it. So before we do that, I want everybody at the table to try your hand at this. So remember, first step, little bit of paint, brayer it out, and then you're going to take your Q-tip before that paint dries, and you're going to make your design. So go ahead and do that. And while they are starting to do that, I'm going to pass around to the group back here some examples of the prints that have already been made. All right. So remember, if you have too much paint on your plate, just take it off on the table. Looks good. All right, and I'm going to continue with the next step for this one. So you can see that there's a little bit of the design left behind. So now I'm going to do a contrasting color. I also wanted to say that the materials that the folks are working with at the table, all those were made possible by the Greater Columbus Arts Council. So thanks to Greater Columbus Arts Council for an artist grant that allowed me to purchase materials and be able to take this show on the road. I've done a lot of professional development with teachers in the Olentangy School District. Before I forget, I have a workshop this Saturday. There's 2 spots remaining, so anybody that wants to grab those, it is going to be in Somerset, Ohio, so it's about an hour from Columbus, a little south. It's a beautiful little town, and we're going to be there in the afternoon from 1 to 4. So Somerset Artist Co-op is the place where that's going to be taking place this Saturday. 2 spots remaining, so grab them while you can. All right, I'm going to continue. So once you pull your print, hold it up so everybody can see. Nancy, hold that up so everybody can see. Yeah, all right. All right, very nice. Hold those up so everybody can see them. Fantastic. All right. If somebody else wants to give it a try, I have some wipes up here that we can wipe the plates off with, or you can use another piece of paper to try to do a second print. If you have lots, it seems like I see lots of paint on there. Go ahead and do a second print if you'd like, and then you can use the wipes to clean it off. We'll see, Bev. Nice, very good. All right. Okay, so I'm back on this same plate that I just used with an additional color. So either use another piece of paper, or there's wipes up here that I can send out. So I'm going to do the second print over top of the first one that I pulled here. right, here's the second color over top of the brown in the very beginning. So that was just contrasting colors. If you're doing a two color, it should be something that's contrasting, which means a light and a dark. The other thing is, and I don't know if you can see it on the table, but I love the roller marks or the brayer marks and use a lot of that in collage as well. So there it is. All pieces are in play when I'm always doing this to keep it, for collage papers. So we can pass that around. All right, how we doing? See some good looking stuff here, good. Next time, maybe just a touch less paint. If it gets too shiny and you should be able to almost see through the plate. Just a very, very thin amount of paint needs to go on. If it gets too much paint, then that's when it doesn't work too well. Anybody have questions so far? Yes. Hectogram. Yeah, that's the original. And if you think about this in terms of printing processes, this is a monoprint. So you get one time. You can't ever reproduce it. A lot of printmaking, the reason of doing printmaking is to produce editions or multiples, but this is a single print original piece of art. So all the ones that are up here, we can pass these around too. Those are all just originals, so you can never reproduce them ever, ever, ever again the same way. Oh, yeah. All right, any other questions?
Just passing around those white spots, they're just white that paint off with your finger?
So that was the Q-tip. So the Q-tip removes the paint. So yes, in printmaking, there's a lot of reverse thinking. So when you're removing the paint or the ink, you're going to see the color of whatever paper you're printing on. Okay, so in this case, it's white. So wherever you remove that paint, it's going to be the white of the paper. If you're adding paint or ink, then that color will be the color that stands most. Okay. All right, and if anybody's finished in this front row and wants to give somebody else a chance, please do that. I'm going to show the next phase of this, which is stencils. Using stencils to create the images and the designs that are on a lot of these pieces. All right, here we go. All right, so stenciling this is one of my favorite things to do because anything can become a stencil. You can cut a stencil from a file folder. You can cut a stencil from a file folder. So this is one side of a piece of cardboard that you can cut with using scissors or X-Acto knife, and this can be a stencil. You can cut paper and make that a stencil. There's some that I've had forever. I've used this so many times. This was paper, and it's become so thick with spray paint and everything else I've used it for that it's very rigid now and kind of coming apart. There are plastic stencils that you can purchase on, I got these on Temu or Temu, however you say that. and there's all kind of different, just very thin stencils that can be used for this next step as well. Probably one of my favorite stenciling ways is to make them using hot glue. So these stencils were made out of hot glue. And what I do is you have to use parchment paper. So parchment paper is the only thing that hot glue won't stick to. I tried it on the deli paper, stuck to it. That's why it's called hot glue. So what you do basically is you heat up the hot glue gun, and I'll pass these around too so you can see them. And then just draw. You just draw on the parchment surface, and it produces these stencils that you can use on the plate then. And as long as they're kind of connected together, then they work pretty good. Now you can see where this one's come apart just a little bit. It just needs to be glued back together. So again, just by drawing on parchment with hot glue, you can produce all kinds of cool stencils. Even down to, this was a cupcake insert on a cupcake tin, I believe. And the joke at our house is, with my wife, is to check with me before things get thrown out in the trash, because when I throw it out, it's really trash after that. So some of these things I just collect and keep for stencils. Bubble wrap's a good one. I get excited when Amazon shows up at our house, not for what's in the package, but for the package. And so this is a nice cardboard envelope that came from Amazon. And so I keep these. This was really cool paper that came from downstairs, actually, in Fused Glass, where they buy sheets of glass, and this was in between the glass. So it's got a nice texture to it, and it's nice and easy to work with, and it's one of those things that can just be recycled and used again. Some other stencils can be just as simple as a bag from oranges. This is a sack of limes. So you can use this as a stencil. Let's see, that's a good one. Let's see, hold that one up. That's good. All right, nice. Ooh, really nice. Yeah, love that. Good job. If anybody else wants to come up front and try it, feel free. There's a couple spots up here. All right, so here we go, stencils. All right, I'm gonna, same exact process, just a little bit of paint. Takes a very small amount of paint. So get an example when I say small amount of paint. You can see that you can almost see through that. There's not so much paint on there that it covers it, but just a kind of a skim of paint over the surface of the plate. All right, so I've chosen a couple stencils here. I'm going to start this way. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take a piece of paper, put it over top, and rub around the stencil before it dries. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm removing the paint around the stencil, which then gives us this, and this could be what? Another one to print on top of, or this could be a piece of collage paper. So then when I remove the stencils, the paint that was under the stencil stays on the plate. Okay, so that's how stenciling works. Now, the key to this part, doing stencils, is allowing this layer now to dry. And you can do it with a hair dryer, you can do it just by fanning it, but you want this to go completely dry, which is opposite to what we were just doing with a single drawing and trying to pull it up before it dries. Okay, so this part, we want it to dry because the next color, the contrasting color that we put on top is going to, the moisture of that paint is going to release the image that's now dry on here. So why have it dry? Well, if it was wet and we tried to put the next color on, what's it going to do? Just all mixed together, right? So this is going to activate that paint again. Let's see. Nice. Very, very nice. Woo! All right. Good looking. All right. All right, so I'm going to put the next color on top of this. This is dry now. And then I'm going to pull the print off while it's wet. Okay, so this is another, we're putting paint on it while it's dry, while the plate is dry. We're reactivating it with the moisture of the paint we're putting on. It's going to lift it off, but we need to lift it off before it dries. Okay, now we're going to pull this print off of here. Okay, I'm not going to show you that one because it didn't work. So sometimes they work, sometimes they do not. But that's okay because we can just now use this as something to print over top of. All right, so my deduction is that I probably didn't have enough paint on the very first layer when I did the stencil, so we'll do it again. If I could get some of those wipes real quick. All right, we're going to do the stenciling again, but this time I'm going to put a little bit more paint on. This time I'm going to use fabric. So that's another thing that you can do. This has fabric that has a texture to it, so I'm going to put that on. I'm going to go right into this while it's wet and try to pick this up now. There we go. That one's better. Okay. So again, the advantage to using contrasting colors is really essential. So you want to make sure that you're using a dark and a light. Yes.
Well, we noticed when the paint dries on the paper,
Yeah.
then you can see the end colors.
Yeah. There's a what I've also discovered is that every environment has a different humidity level and a different heat level. And so that affects the way that the paint reacts along with. And so there's those factors as well. So what the bottom line is, this is a big experiment. There is no perfect way to do it. It's just a matter of trying it and seeing what happens. I see some really great results happening over here. And if you all want to kind of peek over their shoulder, you could do that too, see what's going on here. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the way to get some paper, go like Staples or Office Depot and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the paper will also produce different results. So the paper that you have at the table right now, that's just like copy paper from Staples or Office Depot, one of those. But you can use watercolor paper. You can use like Arches printmaking paper. Each one of those have a different absorption rate. I found, and so just depending on what works for you, that's the biggest lesson in all of this. I think the other thing that happens with this is just the discovery portion and allowing yourself to just try it. You know, it's just paper, it's just paint, and it's not this precious art material, but just trying different ways to produce the prints. That's a good one there. So that was a dark over the lighter first print, which is nice. So if anybody wants to try the stencils, you can come up and grab a stencil and try that if you'd like at the table. Let's see what this is. Yes.
What if you wanted to do it like how would it come out on the canvas?
I'm sorry.
Have you done it on the canvas? Like how would it come out?
I have done it on a canvas, but I would when you do it, show me what it looks like. Because I want to see. Somebody I was working with, one of the teachers at Olentangy, and they were really doing lots of ceramics, and they were trying to figure out how this could transfer glaze or another clay material onto a piece of clay. So that's pretty exciting too. I think it's very versatile in that way. Did you have a question?
What paper you prefer artists use in this situation?
Yeah, I think you use what you have, and it doesn't. I think we have this myth always that we have to run to the art supply store and pay exorbitant amounts of money for this paper and these paints and all this kind of stuff. My favorite art supply store is Lowe's. Nice. I like going to Lowe's and looking at things, and I use a lot of house paint, a lot of non-traditional materials. But it does the same thing. It does the same thing for a fraction of the cost. So don't think that as an artist you have to go to the art supply stores and spend lots and lots of money. But try things with the materials that you have and then see how that all works for you. And then you can expand on it. Now, obviously, oil paint would not work because it doesn't dry for long periods of time. So you want to stay with acrylic-based materials at this point. Yes. That's correct, because it has a certain texture to it that when the paint goes on, it'll release from it. For this particular process, the silicone plate, and you can purchase those. You can get those online right now. They're all over the place. So they're around, this size is around $25, something like that. So again, it's a pretty easy entry into art making that gives great results. Got some good conversation over here at the table. Good job, everybody. Let's see, hold that one up. I love that. Let's see. Yes.
Todd.
I'm sorry.
What would your
Yeah. So again, for instance, an example would be watercolor paper is very thick and rigid because it has to withstand all the water that goes on it. Okay, so that's one kind of paper. Whereas, I love that. Whereas, office paper is very much to be recycled. It's temporary, but it's also very flexible. So it picks up a lot of detail, just copy paper. So it's a matter of just trying multiple papers and different brands of paint I've realized that the Liquitex paints, they work the best. They have a good body to them. They have a good thickness. I know Stacy, we were trying yesterday, she was trying out some acrylic paint from the dollar store, and it just didn't have enough body. It didn't have enough acrylic binder in the middle of it. Yeah.
People use videos of people using the dollar store paint. They use things like PVA, right?
Yeah. You can kind of create your own gessos. You can do, glue is a wonderful thing, and house paint. Just mixing those things together. But yeah, the stuff that Stacy had was it was like water, and it was billed as acrylic paint, but not really. All right. Does anybody else want to give it a try that hasn't had a chance? Any other questions? What's that? Yeah, come up and grab a stencil if you want to try that. Anybody that wants to try stencil at the table, do that. All right, I'm going to try to do one more up here.
See his picture up here, everybody?
Very nice.
I'm glad you came up. Anybody else want to give it a shot? Carlos.
All right, so I did the stencils first here with that kind of electric green color. I'm going to get this dry, and then I'm going to put a contrasting color over top of that. And this is going to be the money print right here. The other thing that you can do, and like at this point, if I wanted to keep the white of the paper and have the green design on it, I could just take acrylic medium, which is basically what's in acrylic paint without the hue in it, without the color in it. Pigment, thank you. Yeah, without the pigment in it. And then you could put that on here. And again, that moisture is going to release the image from the plate once it's dry. So it doesn't have to be a color. It could be just matte medium, acrylic medium of any kind that doesn't have the pigment in it.
So can you use more than, like at the same time, like put one dot of another color and another color?
Absolutely, yeah. So the question is about mixing colors, and I absolutely, positively encourage everybody to mix colors and not take them out of the tube, because the tube colors, although they're fantastic, I can spot a tube color a mile away. So I always encourage people to do different mixing of different colors. So you can mix them ahead of time before you put them on the plate, or you can mix them right on the plate. And sometimes you get some nice gradations of color doing it that way. All right, this is about dry. I'm getting ready to put my contrasting dark color on top of here. And then we're going to get this one. You can always check to see if it's dry. Oh, that's the biggest question I get. How do I know it's dry? Well, one, if you touch it and it comes on your finger, it's still wet. But if you see it still very shiny on the surface, then that means the paint's still wet. So you can use a hair dryer to speed that up, or you could just fan it. All right, there's that. Okay, any questions? Questions about this? Yes.
What stencils for art? Like any one?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I said, what kind of stencils do you prefer artists using and why?
What kind of stencils?
Oh, stencils. You can make your own. You can just cut them with scissors, just out of paper. Even I showed the file folder that you can cut out from cardboard. Anything can become a stencil. So again, you don't have to buy them. There's lots of things in the world just kind of laying around or being discarded that you can use as a stencil. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. I have a proposal, though, before we cut out here. I have a proposal that in 2025, we turn the tables and we get Ellen O'Shaughnessy as a Conversation and Coffee interviewee. instead of the interviewer, because she has 39 years of stories to tell us. So I'm proposing that. I didn't tell her about that, but we'll make that happen. Stay tuned in 2025. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.